Hi lads, this video is going to go through the activities on page 105 your booklet. So basically continue on from our live class where we looked at axial symmetry. So for the first question there, 10.11, it tells us construct the image of the triangle ABC under an axial symmetry in the line QR. So there's our axis of symmetry there. We have our triangle ABC. So we need to draw that when it's flipped over onto the opposite side. You can see there's a few construction notes. I've them written out there for you. It tells you from each point, draw a line perpendicular to the axis of symmetry. So that's the first thing we're going to do. So it's basically, all that there is telling us, reminds us how to actually do out the question. So that's the first thing. So you can see there, the question is set up at 45 degrees. So we have to go perpendicular to our axis of symmetry. So if it's 45 degrees going this way, then 45 degrees has to go the opposite way as well, because 45 and 45 will give us our 90 degrees, and that'll give us our 90 degree angle there. So you can see there, A, B, and C all go at 90 degrees. Our next step then, it tells us measure the distance from the axis to the points. So for example, if I stretch my compass out to point A from my axis, so that length there, and for this third step, apply the distance on the opposite side of the axis of symmetry to draw the image under the transformation. So I take the distance from my axis to A, and I swing it across to give me A1 on the opposite side. I do the exact same for B, stretch it out, flip it across, that gives me B1, and the exact same for C, giving me C1. When I connect those together, I've then drawn the image of the triangle ABC under axial symmetry. So there's our mirror image of what that triangle looks like when it's flipped from there across to there. Same idea as when we were holding the set square the last time in the live class. Goes like that. You can imagine it flips over to that side. The next one then, 10.12. Construct the image of the given figure under an axial symmetry in the line QR. So you can see this time, our axis symmetry is at 60 degrees. And we know that 60 plus 30 will give us 90, and that gives a perpendicular line. So first of all, what I'll do is, I'll take the top half first. I'll extend A out, and we can see there, 90 degrees. Take B, this point here, and then that point there. Same idea again. Measure out to A, swing it across, that gives me A1. Then go from B, swing it across, that gives me B1. My point below there goes across, and then this point here goes across to there. So that says CD there. So what I'll say is, I'll call this EF. So there's E1 and there's F1. So I connect A1 to B1. B1 connects to E1. E1 connects to F1. And then we have our lower points, and I call this one G and this one H. Exact same again. G and H go out, and then C, and finally D. We take our own unique distances again for each of those. So for example, G here, that goes across to there, giving me G1. H goes across to here, giving me H1. C stretches out to there to give me C1, and D stretches out to there to give me D1. So I can see that F connects to G, G connects out to H connects to C connects to D, and D connects back to A. And there is our mirror image of that C shape there, flipped across, giving us our mirror image as a result. Next one, activity 10.13. The figure shows a logo, and axial symmetry will be applied to the logo. Point A is the new position, point A1 is the new position of point A after the axial symmetry. Locate the axis symmetry and complete the drawing to show the full logo after the axial symmetry. So basically with this one, we're missing our axis. What we're given instead is, we're told there's the end point. When A goes to A1, there's where we're going to end up. Whereas previously, they gave us the axis and we found A1. So what we know about the axis is, first thing we know is, it's halfway between each point. So for example, if I go from A to that line, the axis, and from the axis back to A1, that's the same distance. Same with all these points here. If I go from C to there, and then from there back to C1, the distance is the exact same. So what I need to do is bisect the line. If I join A to A1, I need to bisect that line. If I bisect that line, it's going to give me my axis, because the distance is going to be equal on both sides, just like it is here. So we're not given the axis, we defined it. So we know how to bisect a line. Distance greater than halfway. Swing an arc above and below on both sides. Connect those together. And that gives us our axis then. I'll draw my line in nice and heavy. And what I'll do is, I'll label that my axis of symmetry. So, I just need to move that down so you can see. There's my axis of symmetry now. That line there, that's our axis. You can imagine, like the way to say it before, it's QR. We could label that as QR as well. Say, there's our line, our axis. So we've already found A1. Now we need to find B, C, and D, and then draw a triangle in between. So we need to go perpendicular to our axis as always. So we need to use sliding set squares for that. So line up with our axis there. Go across to B. Go across to D. And then finally to C. And the same methods applied again. And just to prove it, there's the distance from A to our axis. Swing it across, touches A1. B to our axis, swing it across. We now have B1. C to our axis, swing it across. There's C1. And then finally D to our axis, swing it across, gives us D1. We can see that's drawn in heavy there. So we connect A1 to B1, B1 to C1, C1 to D1, and then D1 back to A1. What we'll do is I'll label these here. I'll call this 1 and 2. We need to find those points as well to draw our triangle. Because you can see the other corner of the triangle is already connected to D, so we need to draw that again. So now we take 2 across and 1 across. And you'll see that 2 is going to hit off this side here, but just to prove it, 2 taken across hits there, and 1 taken across hits there. So you can see there's point 1 and there's point 2. They're joined together and they join back to D then. And that's now drawn that question axial symmetry. And it's the same with the last question then, 10.14. The figure shows a house. Point E1 is the new position of point E when the house has been subject to an axial symmetry. Locate the axial symmetry and draw the house in its new position. So same idea again. We connect E to E1. We bisect that line to find our axis. So remember, axis halfway across. Distance greater than halfway. Swing an arc above and below. Join that together. And there's our axis. So I'll draw that in nice and heavy there. And once again, I'll put down that is my axis of symmetry. And I can label the font as QR again, like the previous questions. So all the points now need to go perpendicular to that axis. So I'll take the four corners first here, A, B, C, and D. Or sorry, A, B, D, and E. So E is already taken. A goes across. B goes across. And then just move up a bit to get point D. And D goes across. Just to prove once again, distance from E to the axis is the same out to E1. Now I can go from A across to give me A1, D across gives me D1, and B across gives me B1. And now connect those together. E1 connects to A1, A1 connects to B1, B1 connects to D1, and finally D1 connects to E1. And now for the roof, take across point C to find C1, same distance, C to the axis, across, gives me C1 here, and C1 connects to B1, and also C1 can connect to A1 there. And then the door in the corner, what I can do is I can label this as 1, 2, and 3. Take them all across. So 1, 2, and 3. Take 1, step it across, you see it's exactly at that point there. 2, step that across, gives me that point there. And 3 is going to go through the bottom, and just to prove it, same distance there, giving me 3. They can connect together. And that completes that question there. So hopefully that video helps anybody may have been stuck on any of those questions.